Today, or tonight for me, we're playing Fiorentina, and Fiorentina are a team I've always had a bit of a soft spot for, and yeah, it's because they play in purple. And that's pretty much it. I like Palermo as well because they play in pink, so I like anyone who plays in pink or purple. You got my vote. So today we're playing Fiorentina, and I've mentioned it already, the purple. I love this purple, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, these kits are so nice, but these are actually old kits. I've actually got an old kit pack installed. I couldn't get the kits for the 2020-2021 season for obvious reasons. They don't exist yet, and I'm not about to go and make them all either. So yeah, these are old kits, but they're kits that I like. So there you go, that's the important stuff out of the way, the kits. Yeah, I like the kits and I like the colour. Brilliant. You don't need to know anything else, do you, really? Where are Fiorentina and what are they doing? Well, they're 7th at the moment. Media prediction is 8th, so 7th is a pretty decent place for them to be in at the moment. Founded in 1926, Fiorentina, and obviously their reputation is reputation continental. I'd say that it's actually maybe international, wouldn't you? Anyway, professional status, squad personality is determined. They've got great training facilities and great youth facilities. Rich. Estimated value 293 million. Fierce rivals Juventus, along with everybody else. Other rivals are Pisa and Empoli. Legends. Here we go. Now here's a legend for you. Can I click on him? No, I can't. Ugh. Gabriel Batistuta. So, what a guy he was. Also, icons. I'm not sure why Batistuta is a legend, and yet their icons are Rui Costa, Roberto Baggio, Artemio Franchi, who their stadium is named after. And who else plays in the Artemio Franchi? Nobody. But we've done a stadium visit to the Artemio Franchi, and it's not this stadium. There's another stadium called the Artemio Franchi Stadium, and I can't remember why. Giuseppe Rossi as well. So they've had a decent amount of very good players coming through their ranks over the years, as have the team that we will be playing next week, incidentally, who are up here, Napoli. One particular player used to play for Napoli you may have heard of. We'll get onto him next week. 2 Serie A's, 1 European Cup, 6 Italian Cups. We're still in the Italian Cup, we'll get to that in a minute. They're a team with a really, really good pedigree, you know. They've always, I mean, look at the league history, they're always in and around kind of Serie A. They have dropped down on a couple of occasions, notably down here, 2002, 2003, they really sank low, didn't they? Yeah, that was a bad time for them, it looked like. Then they were in Serie B for a season, and then back in Serie A, and it looks like they pretty much managed to stay in Serie A ever since. So, you know, they've been there a long time. They're a staple of Serie A. Fiorentina's manager is Stefano Pioli. Good man management skills. He has no opinion of me, which is fine. Born in Parma, which is interesting. And yet, and here we go. He was the manager of Piacenza in 2008 to 2009 season. So he's managed a lot of clubs, hasn't he? His favoured formation is a 4-2-3-1 wide, which is what they've got here, 4-2-3-1 wide. And they've got some very, very good players, I'm afraid. So the reason for doing these little films is to try and find out if there's anything that we can exploit. It doesn't always work. We don't always find something, as you'll see from if you watched last week's episode where we got a little bit battered by Roma. As I've said a million times, we are not a good team in terms of this division. We are not one of the better teams. In fact, we're probably the worst team. So any little thing that we can do to get an advantage really, really does help. Let's have a look at the players. Patrick Catrone, if we have a look at his reports, let's have a look at his stats. 508 passes, 410 of those he's succeeded, 81% of his passes. His average rating is 7.2, his best rating is 9. He's won 6 man of the match awards, 85 shots, 55 of those have been on target, which is 65%. He's got 11 goals so far in Serie A, which for a winger is pretty good. I'd guess it's probably more than their striker. How many goals has he got? He's got 3 goals. So yeah, he's someone who I am scared of. He's gonna run riot on us, I think. Look at him. He's fairly determined. It says he's fairly determined there, but from that mugshot, he looks incredibly determined. Also, if we have a look at Catrone's overview here, the scout report, he's only got 1 con, which is good, isn't it? Roberto Inglesi is a good striker, work rate 17 as well, which is good to have. He's got really good physicals, plays with back to goal, resolute striker. His last game, he got an 8.8 rating. He's only scored 3 goals, but then it looks like in Serie A, he's only made 5 appearances in total, 4 off the bench. So he hasn't been starting for them, and I wonder whether actually Catrone has usually played up front instead of him, or that there must be some kind of injury that's meant that he's had to come in that capacity. Who's this? Juan David Torres. This looks to be a youngster, 19 years old, and God, he looks good, doesn't he? For 19 years old. A very good player, and he's playing in this position. Again, someone I wouldn't mind having on my team. 8 appearances, 3 goals. So he's got as many goals as their striker already. Average rating of 7.1. A couple of games ago, he got an 8.2 there, and what was that? He scored a goal. So he looks like a very good player indeed, and someone who at that kind of age can still improve as well. I mean, he's only got half a star to improve to be a 5-star rated player. So he's doing quite well, isn't he? Marco Benassi, a solid central defensive midfielder slash defender, central defender. He looks good. Yeah. This is going to be like all the other episodes, isn't it? Let's go through. Oh, yeah, look, he's good. Oh. Let's have a look at some of these. Goalkeeper. Well, let's have a look at the goalkeeper. Yep, he's good as well. Well, jumping reach 18. Reflex is 17. He's a good goalkeeper. Damn it. They've got very good players. What a surprise. Diakate looks good, doesn't he? 22 years old. Oh, he's exactly the kind of player that we need. We play a box-to-box midfielder in our system, and I always struggle with who to put in there because we don't really have a natural player in that position. This guy would do the job. Only valued at 5.75 million, actually. I think he'd probably go for a lot more than that. 16 stamina, 16 strength, 12 work rate, but that might improve. 15 off the ball, dictates tempo. I like that in a player. Knocks ball past opponent, runs with ball often. Good player. He looks good. I like the look of him. What's he done? He's 7. He's not done much. Yeah. Well, in terms of their results, they lost to Sampdoria 4-5. That looks like that was probably a good game. They lost to F95 for Dusseldorf. Yeah. Fortuna Dusseldorf, first in Bundesliga 2. Sorry, they didn't lose. They drew 1-1 on that. They lost to Atalanta on penalties, 6-7 in the end. And that in the cup. It must have been. Napoli, they won 2-1, which is a good result. Bologna, they won 2-1. They're coming off the back of a couple of wins, but they've had a couple of losses as well. So their form has just picked up. We're hitting them just as their form's picked up, which is perfect, isn't it? Right then, Mr. Assistant, show me the report cards for Fiorentina. Let's see if there's anything we can pick out that might give us an advantage. I'm worried about this. I'm worried, and I'll tell you why I'm worried. It's because of, well, I don't want to give a spoiler, but well, we'll get on to Piacenza in a bit, and then you'll see why I'm worried. First off, we can see a tiny bit of red there. So in the centre, they're a little bit weak. I don't think it's enough to decide to exploit the middle too much. It might be something we can fall back on later on in the game if things aren't going our way, and we might remember that they were a little bit weak there. Confident group of players, which is good, isn't it? Cautious mentality when playing away, so they might have a cautious mentality against us, although they are playing away, but they're playing away to a far weaker team, so maybe they won't have a cautious mentality. I wouldn't. Play with a mixed tempo, short passing style, press from the front, mixed marking style. Not much there really. Let's look at the team. Let's look at the team report card. Oh, they've got quite a few weaknesses. They've got more weaknesses than strengths. That's what I like to see. More weaknesses than strengths, and that's, I should probably look at my own report card if I want to see more weaknesses than strengths. So I bet there's quite a few there. Not the best squad in terms of heading. Miraglia's heading ability may help to exploit this. Yes, good point. I was leaning towards putting him in the squad anyway. Now I'm leaning towards putting him up front, potentially. Maybe as something like a target man. Because if their heading isn't good, we might be able to exploit that. Because, he usually either plays in... Oh, go on. Let's go and have a look at him. Miraglia. Okay, so here he is. I've spoken about him briefly before. He's scored goals for us. He only played one game because he got injured in his first ever game. He scored a goal and he got injured in his first ever game for us. But I was excited about him, if you remember. He didn't have a photo then. I've since put this picture in. That's what he looks like. Looks good, doesn't he? You know, likeable guy. You know, I think I could get on with him, so that's good. I always like to see whether I can get on with the players or not. Look at them and judge them on, you know, face value, which you obviously shouldn't do. I like to judge a book by its cover. So there we go. I've judged him. Now, basically, he is either a striker or an attacking midfielder. I'm thinking I might play him as a striker in this game, simply because, and I know I'm going a little bit off track here, I need to get back to Fiorentina, but I might as well talk about it while I'm here, simply because since you've been away, we went into a transfer window and our director of football brought someone in on loan, and it's this guy, Tashreeq Matthews, on loan from Borussia Dortmund 2. He's only 5'8", and he only weighs 9 stone 10, but look at his acceleration. He's got really good acceleration, dribbling's good first touch. He's a young lad, he's only 20 years old, young South African lad. Fairly determined, he hasn't got any traits yet. He's played one game for us, and he wasn't amazing, but then the team weren't amazing either, as you'll see in a bit. So I've got high hopes for him. His current ability is 4 stars, with a black star for his potential ability, so, you know, he could go up to 5 stars. Now, the great thing about him is he plays as a trequartista, which I've been testing Manolo Portanova as that role in that position, and it's not something he does naturally. This guy's a natural trequartista, and I really want that for this position. We'll get onto that either this episode or next episode, and I'll discuss that in a little bit more detail and why I want a trequartista. I'm interested to play him in that position, which means Bikash Meraglia could play up front because he's also got good jumping reach, 15, and his heading is 13 as well. Little bit of a detour, but we're now back. We're back on the weaknesses. Any other weaknesses? Squad lacks determination, leadership void. Aha! A rather high 8 of the 26 goals conceded in the last 20 matches have arrived in the first 15 minutes. Okay, so do we go down this route again and attack for the first 15 minutes of the match? Okay, we did it against Roma and it didn't backfire. It just so happened that they scored in the first 15 minutes of the second half when they were supposed to be weak. But that could have happened to anyone. So fuck it, yeah, I'm going to go attacking. First 15 minutes of the game, I'm going to go attacking. And also, 7 of the 22 assists conceded in the last 20 matches have come from the left side of the pitch. So there's a few things here. We've got the left side of the pitch, let's exploit that. We know that we need good headers in defence, so Progrefi is a good option to have there. Attack in the first 15 minutes. And also play Bikash Meraglia up front as a target man so that we can deliver the ball to his head as much as possible. But yeah, that's promising. So just to back some of that up, this is Fiorentina's last game against Bologna, and if we have a look at, that's not what I want to look at, I want to look at the heat map. I want to look at the heat map because if you look at the right hand side here, it looks like they are kind of sitting quite advanced on that right hand side, which is leaving a little bit of space in behind there. So again, you know, attacking that side of the pitch could be a good way to go. 7 of 22, I think it was, of the goals against them have come from crosses from the left-hand side. So that is people exploiting this weakness. So if we can, if we attack down the left, then we exploit their weakness on the right. So I've just noticed this, and this is something that we're going to need to bear in mind. If we do go attacking in that first 15 minutes, we're going to have to make sure that we keep an eye on the clock carefully, because it might be wise to then turn to a cautious mentality after 15 minutes, because 23% of their goals scored have come in between the 16th and the 30th minute. So although they might be weak at the beginning, they then get going. So I'm fairly happy with that. I don't think it gives us a massive advantage, but they are definitely things that we can do, and I just like to have something that I know I can do that might make a difference. Every little helps. Let's get on to the Piacenza side of things. We've already spoken about Tashreeq Matthews. We've already spoken about Bikash Meraglia. There is another player that I want to talk about, but I'll move on to him in a minute. First of all, let's have a quick look at the table. So, Serie A, We're down there. We're 16th. We're not in the relegation zone yet. And look, we've only played 19 games, so we've got a couple of games in hand on some of these teams. So it's maybe not quite as bad as it seems if we can win any of those games in hand. Just a draw, even drawing both of them would be good. But what's happened is basically we've stopped drawing. So the Roma game we lost 3-0. Then we got battered by Sampdoria 2-1. Then we got totally battered by Milan 3-0. And we've had so many away games. We've hardly had any home games, so it's quite good that we've got a home game today. Then we played Empoli, and we managed to beat them, which was great. I can't even remember what happened in these games, actually, come to think of it now. Spal, we beat them. I'm just going to skim through these. Then we had a little bit of a break where, for some reason, our assistant booked a friendly. So we had a friendly against Slovan Bratislava, and we managed to scrape a win against them, and they are much worse than us. They're in the Slovak First Division, and still we only just managed to scrape a win against them. Then we played Torino in the Italian Cup first round, and we got absolutely hammered by them over and over and over again, and somehow we managed to stop them from scoring. We luckily won a penalty in the 69th minute. Well, say luckily, it was a penalty, but, we're very lucky that we were even in their half. 69th minute, we won a penalty. Della Latta scored it, and they couldn't come back for some reason. And so now we're in the quarterfinal of the Italian Cup, or the Coppa Italia. That is going to be against Napoli, and that's the next game, actually. So I'm going to also have that on the channel. That'll be the film next week. Then, and probably the less said about this, the better, we got spanked by Benevento, 5-2. Benevento are relegation kind of buddies, I guess. Relegation candidate buddies. Yeah, that was not good. I was fully expecting to win that game. One slight positive, though, is that Robel Gambato scored 2 goals. As luck would have it, he's the player that I'm actually wanting to talk about. Look at him. He looks about 12, doesn't he? Childish Gambato. Obviously, he probably wouldn't look that young now. What is it, 2021, so he's probably actually not a lot older. He's a couple of years older than that now. So he might have grown a beard or something, he might have a tiny bit of stubble, he might have a little bum fluff moustache, I don't know. Doesn't matter what he looks like. I'm obsessed with what people are looking like today. Doesn't matter. That doesn't make any difference. He got an 8.7 rating in that last game. And actually, 4 games ago, he got an 8.4 rating. He's doing really well. 7 appearances, 7 goals. Look, Piacenza, between 2019 and 2021, it's weird when there's 2 20s together, isn't it? 2020, 2020, it feels like you're going on forever. Between 2019 and 2021, for Piacenza, he's made 25 appearances and he's scored 13 goals. That's a pretty good return so far, I think. He's still only got 2-star current ability, and even his potential ability, they don't reckon he can fill that 5th star. But come on, he can, can't he? 250k, there's no way he's worth 250k. He's worth 250 million, this kid. Runs with ball often as well. That's a trait that he's learned through our training, and his personality is spirited. So I am really, really happy with this guy. We signed him for 22k, I think. Having said that, he's probably not going to be playing today, but he might come on off the bench because as we just discussed, we're probably going to play Miraglia up front. But there's another guy who I want to talk about who also might come on off the bench. Dorian Daiz. You've never seen this guy before, and that's because he's been down in our under-20s in the same vein as Gambato. The reason Gambato made it into the first team is that I just kept noticing his name crop up on emails as player of the match. Gambato scores 1, Gambato scores 2, Gambato scores 3. And the same with Daiz as well, Dorian Daiz. I mean, he looks like a thug. He looks like a hooligan. He looks like he's going to kill you. But he's played very well, and he scored a decent amount of goals. He's made, you look at this, non-competitive. He's made 20 appearances for our under-20s, and he scored 14 goals. I was getting report after report after report about him. And he probably could. He's 6 foot and 11 stone, so he probably could kill me. Let's hope he doesn't. So, and that's not why I've put him in the first team, but I've put him in the first team because he's been doing so well. 20 appearances, 14 goals. You can't argue with that. This kid is going to do well, I think. So I'm 2 strikers that I'm really excited with that are both Piacenza players, and I'm excited to see how he does. We've done our job. We've found some things that we can exploit. We've got some interesting players that we can throw in at the deep end as well. So all in all, I think that was a pretty useful look at Fiorentina. The next episode on the channel will be the match against Fiorentina. We're not expected to do anything, actually. Their form is inconsistent. Our form, it says, is decent, but I think they must have got that the wrong way round. Fiorentina are obviously the favourites. They're 7th at the moment. I don't even know what we're 16th, are we? But you never know. We've got a few little things we can hang our hat on. We've got a few little things we can look to exploit, and hopefully we can do something. This can't go on forever. One of these days we're going to upset one of these teams, and today could be the day.